It's the fact.
Art comes in several ways: dance, painting, music. But there's something uniquely powerful about the written and spoken word: the ability to take the deepest of thoughts, the most complex of ideas, and the widest experiences of being human and compress them into language. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words, but whoever said that don't know what a proverb is. Because sometimes a few words describe an entire world. Words are the core of language, and language is the most distinct identity of a culture. And nothing in language captures its people's values and beliefs quite like proverbs do. I am a Yoruba girl. That's my culture. That's my tribe. And one of the most distinct features of the Yoruba people is our language and the way proverbs give it life, depth, and beauty. Yoruba proverbs or way are as old as the people who speak them. They are not just sayings, they are vessels carrying history, values, warnings, and ways of seeing the world from one generation to the next. Alongside this, I've always been deeply fascinated by languages and cultures, and among them, the Korean language and culture sit at the top of that list. I learned Korean on my own. I am not fluent, and my understanding of the Korean culture has largely come through its media, its stories, and its shared expressions. So I'm still learning. In the Korean culture, their proverbs, sukdam, also serve a similar purpose. They are drawn from everyday life, from hardships, from community, and woven into the everyday language of the people. They are more than clever phrases. They carry lessons, social values, and quiet wisdom, offering guidance on how to live, relate, and endure. This series is not about proving expertise. It's about learning, exploring together. I'll get some things right, I will get some things wrong. And that too is a part of the process. So this is an invitation, not just into language, but into people, into culture, into the many ways humans across the world have tried to understand the same questions about love, justice, communication, patience, belonging. And I implore you to contribute, to question, to correct, and to add depth. Well, let's get started. The Yoruba proverb we'll be treating in this episode goes as follows: Òwe lẹṣin ọ̀rọ̀ lẹṣin òwe, tọ́rọ̀ bá sọnù, òwe là ó fi wá. A proverb is the horse of speech. Speech is the horse of proverb. When speech is lost, a proverb is what we use to find it. When we hear the first line, òwe lẹṣin ọ̀rọ̀, proverb is the horse of speech. The imagery is clear. A horse signifies transport, movement. It's saying proverb is the vehicle of speech. It carries speech to where it needs to go, towards the listener, towards understanding, towards meaning. It gives speech direction. Horse also signifies strength. So proverbs strengthen what is being said. It gives speech depth, credibility, and wisdom. But then the proverb turns itself around and says, ọ̀rọ̀ lẹṣin òwe. Speech is the horse of proverbs. And that reversal matters because no matter how powerful a proverb is, if it's not spoken, if it's not called upon in conversations, it remains static. Wisdom that is never used does not survive, it erodes. So proverb needs speech just as much as speech needs proverbs. And I find that interesting because the word used here, oro, which is used to mean speech, it means spoken word, living speech, voice between people, not text, not writing. This proverb isn't concerned with language on paper. It's concerned with language in motion, in conversations, in human exchange. And that tells us something about the Yoruba culture. Wisdom is not stored in some pages. It's shared through conversation, presence, and oral wisdom. Then comes the line, Borobasono. It can mean when words fail us, when meaning becomes vague, when communication goes sideways, when language can no longer carry what we're trying to say. Òwe la fi ń wá, we use proverbs to find it. Proverbs recover what speech loses. They restore depth, they stabilize meaning. The entire proverb is implying that words are fragile. They change, they weaken, but proverbs endure in collective memory, across time, across across generations. One criticism I have is this: the Yoruba culture places enormous reverence on wisdom of the past. And to be clear, much of that reverence is deserved. Some proverbs are breathtaking: the imagery, the command of language, the restraint. You hear them and wonder if anything like that could be produced today. But some proverbs also reflect the belief of their time, beliefs that no longer hold up. Some are gendered, some are biased, some encode ways of living that no longer align with how we understand the world now. So I believe proverbs can guide us, but they should not be beyond examination. My second concern is more subtle, or maybe not. Sometimes when a proverb is introduced into a conversation, especially by someone older, it doesn't open dialogue. It closes it, it ends it. The proverb becomes final, authoritative, unchallengeable. We're over here having a conversation. We have different opinions, but we're trying to reach a resolution. But then you quote a proverb. You put between us a mountain of words of our forefathers, who I dare not go against, a mountain of history and wisdom I could never attain. So of course conversation stops, not because understanding has been reached, but you have invoked authority to give yourself credibility. When that happens, wisdom stops being shared and starts being enforced. And I don't think the answer is to reject proverbs. I think the challenge is learning how to let them guide us without letting them silence us, to question them without discarding them. And this is where things get even more interesting. Because when we look at how other cultures think about speech and meaning, we start to notice similar tension. Which brings us to a Korean proverb: Mari shiga 된다. Words become seeds. Now, this proverb was traditionally said as a warning, especially to people who spoke carelessly. There was a strong belief that spoken words actually become reality. So the proverb is said to mean that words become seeds that take roots underneath and ends up making itself known. It becomes reality. Even today, in Korean society, this belief is still alive. People repeat positive phrases. I'll pass this interview, this surgery will go well. And when things work out, they believe their words bloomed a positive impact. And when someone speaks pessimistically or harshly, they are often reminded that words become seeds, as a caution not to plant harm through speech or call negative things upon themselves. Now, I find the choice of seed used in the proverb very fascinating. Seeds often look inactive, dormant, until something activates them. Then they come alive. Words inside you are contained, inactive, but the moment you speak, they are released like seeds carried by the wind. They travel further than you expect. They land where you can see them. They grow without your permission. What this proverb suggests immediately is that words don't die in the air. They don't vanish after they are heard. Instead, words become seeds that, once spoken, implant themselves. They settle somewhere in the listener, in their memory, their emotions, their understanding of the world. There's a book by Park Jun, Even If You Cry, Nothing Changes, and I quote, "Words are born from a person's mouth and die in a person's ear. But some words don't die, they go into a person's heart and continue to live." So in this Korean proverb, speech is not fragile, it is alive. Once released, it enters into a cycle of growth, rooting, and flowering. And here's a question I have. When a word becomes a seed, who determines what it grows into? Is it the speaker, based on your intention, through your tone and inflection? Or is it the listener, based on their mood, memories, wounds, or values? Which of this decides if your word blooms a flower of hate, anger, or joy in the listener's heart or in the world? Or is it a combination of both, or neither? If so, how terribly uncertain that is. I could speak words of joy with the intention of sharing a part of this joy, but then it comes back to me as hatred because it has bloomed a flower of jealousy in their hearts. In this way, isn't then what is being said by the proverb that words are dangerous, unpredictable? Because once a seed is planted, you no longer control how it grows. You don't decide what it sprouts or what shape it takes. You don't decide how far it spreads. Speech, once spoken, no longer belong to the speaker. What's clear though is this. In this proverb, words outlive the moment of speaking. They don't disappear, they don't fade, they stay, and eventually they return to you as consequence. Both cultures understand speech as powerful, just in different directions, and that tension between fragility and force is where this series exists. Several proverbs in the Yoruba culture talk about the consequences and the power of speech, and there are several more in the Korean culture. But with each proverb that we discuss, we get a different look and a different insight into each culture. So I want to leave you with a question. What does your culture teach you about speech, about words that are spoken, about meaning that survives, and about what happens once something leaves your mouth? I'd really love to know. And in the next episode, we'll keep exploring. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out other videos in the catalog. You might just find something that speaks to you. Until next time, my name is Mariam Fad.